full auto. It's binary trigger. Okay, here's the Falkor Defense Compact Blitz by Azrael's Armory. I'm going to show you guys how to pull her apart and get into the gearbox. Pretty simple really, it's just the bolt catch is a little bit more technical on these ones, and putting the mag release back in is a little bit more technical as well. Other than that, fairly simple. So we'll turn it around. Got a pin here and a pin here. So what we're going to do is just take something that you can knock this pin with, punch that through, take off the upper. Don't worry about your charging handle, they literally just slide back in. So here's our gearbox. What we're going to do now is we're going to undo your fire select. Take a little hex head, unscrew it. Just be super careful when you pull this off, because there is a spring and a little ball underneath here. So you got a little spring up under here. Set it to the side, and this little ball, slide it off. Keep it away from everything. We're going to do the same on the other side. Once again, that little spring can shoot out. You'd be hard pressed to ever find it again. Next step, we're going to take out our mag release. So you want a flathead, and we're just going to unscrew it here. That just unscrews like so. Set it to the side. You will see a little spring in here. That little spring, there's a little ball in there. Got to be real careful of. That's it. And there's a little steel ball that sits on your mag release. So like I said guys, it is a little bit more technical than before, not much. On your bolt catch there is a little pin on the side, so you need a real sharp point to be able to fit it in there. This part can be super tricky guys, so just bear with me. What you want to do is you want to push it in on the side. And flip her over. We'll do the other side. Best way to get it is from the top, just in there. Just sort of pick it out. Can be a little bit tricky, and then that should come out like so. Next we want to punch out, our little pin that holds the gearbox and the receiver. Keep that aside. Then we're going to take out our motor. So it's just Phillips head on the bottom. Take the two screws out. Take your base plate out. Set it to the side. Unplug your motor. Motor should come out like so. Also note guys, your motor should, this isn't a stock motor, this is a M150. Your motor should just pull out by hand. You shouldn't need pliers or anything to get it out. If so, there's something wrong in your gearbox. Next we're going to punch out the back pin. And also there's two screws up in here. Once you got the two screws undone guys, just slide off your handle. Be sure not to pull on it, because you can ruin your motor mount clips. Set all that to the side, and your gearbox should come out like so. When it comes out, you will notice fire select cogs coming off. gears, don't worry about that. That's completely fine. So now let's get into the gearbox. Okay guys, so now we're going to open the gearbox. First thing, you want to take the spring out, otherwise it can be quite dangerous, especially with the heavy metal spring retainers that they have on there. I'm going to take off this bolt. Let's just take that little screw out. Take off your plate. Now, what you want to do is this little gear here. I find getting a flathead underneath it works a treat. The first time taking that off, it could be a little bit stuck. Don't worry about that. That's for your T-piece spacer. And now we can go ahead and undo all these screws. First thing I like to take care of is there's a little screw just under here. Just take that out. Now this gearbox is not stock standard. I have put an Astor MOSFET in it. Slightly bigger spring because I have radiused the gearbox. So you can see where I've radiused it, taken off those sharp edges. Same on the other side. Okay, so now get into the gearbox. Don't worry about taking off your bolt catch. That's we'll just leave that on. There's no need to take it off. This is not your standard, obviously, gearbox that come with these blasters. This one here, I've gone ahead and put 12-to-1 gears in. It has already been thrashed quite a bit. They were second-hand gears, but they're more than fine to use. I am using a SHS V2 polymer piston with a green O-ring. I never had an issue with the green O-rings, so if it's not broken, why fix it? Alright. Astor MOSFET. This Astor MOSFET was front wired, unfortunately, so I've had to rewire the whole thing back. As you can see, I've spliced the positive in. I've had to rerun everything so it would all fit correct. Once again, strong return spring. They come with the nylon tappet. There is a sector delay under there. Now, because it is high rate of fire, I'll just take the bevel gear out. Because it is a high rate of fire, I have trimmed off the back of it, simply so it still draws it back far enough to be able to feed the gel in, because they do use an extremely long nozzle. But because of the high rate of fire, it causes a compression droop if I were to leave the back half of it on. It just leaves that nozzle open and sealing in the T-piece in time before the sector picks it back up because of the fast rate of fire. Stainless steel cylinder. It comes with a stainless steel cylinder, that head, this nozzle, tappet, return spring, sector delay. Comes with this metal trigger, same as the previous builds. They do come with a cast set of gears. This one here, like I said before, I have radiused it and given it an extra Sorbro pad, just purely for that added protection against cracking. I do highly suggest doing so, because it will increase the life of your APS gearbox dramatically. But yeah guys, this is basically the internals of the gearbox of the Falkor Defense, same as the other builds by Azrael's Armory. I highly suggest picking them up. The build quality on them is phenomenal. They do require some slight adjusting. They will run out the box fine. For me personally, I like to nitpick my things a little bit. So I do radius them, Sorbro pad them. I like to change my gears out from cast to fine, but from cast to SHS gears, I like changing over my piston. I just get better results with everything. They do come at 300 FPS out the box. Every single one we've chronoed has been 300 FPS, bang on the mark. 299, 302, 305, 298, with an average of 300, which is really quite impressive. They shoot nice and straight out of the box, depending on which gels that you use. I find the white Armortex or the Warntress V2 white Milkies the best. I get the best results with those, or even the glow-in-the-dark Warntress gels. They also give phenomenal results for accuracy. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to go ahead and put this back together, and I'll show you how to reassemble your blaster. So, reassembling this bad boy, you always want to make sure all your primaries are back in place. Anti-reverse latch is always a big one. So many times I've put my blaster back together only to fire it and hear it going in reverse. This is a classic telltale sign of your anti-reverse latch. Okay, so now everything's back in there. What we'll do now is make sure our shims are back in the correct spot. This gearbox is pre-shimmed, so I'm not just guessing where these shims go, that's where they were, in case you're wondering. Sometimes I like to, you can either get a magnet behind your anti-reverse latch to stop it from popping up. This one is popping up just a little bit. So what we're going to do is, you can take like a little flathead or something quite thin, hold it in place. Hear it click back together. One thing to note is that your gearbox should stay together by itself. You can see my piston sliding around in there, which is a good sign. They give maximum FPS with as least amount of resistance as possible. It has full compression, that's why the holes in the piston head are actually there to inflate the O-ring to give you a good seal. If you go an O-ring that's too tight, it will create a lot of resistance. It won't slide backwards and forth on its own, and it is making everything heat up, your motor, your battery. It puts a lot of strain on everything and is just no good. A tighter O-ring does not give higher FPS, it actually gives lower FPS, because the piston, when it's released from the sector, the spring is having to push that resistance through, whereas if it slides back and forth by itself, the spring has maximum power to just snap it back in place and pushes much air out as possible, as quick as possible. So now what we want to do is take all our screws. What I like to do is I like to secure the back first. Make sure your screws are nice and tight. If you find after a game or two you go to check it and your screws are coming out, just put a little Loctite in there. It will, just some weak Loctite, don't use anything dramatic, because you will need to regularly go into your blaster to service it. Unfortunately, the amount of rounds we pump out through the blaster compared to airsoft, we're putting 10,000 gels through a game, they're putting 10,000 gels through 10,000 rounds through a year. So it's a big difference in stress. What I like to do is I like to put this little spring in now. So basically, pop your gearbox open, so that's back in like so. Now we can continue along our path, putting all screws back in place. Always remember your spring. Okay, so all screws are back in place. So we're going to attach our bolt, set it on like so. Put the screw not too tight, that's a bit too tight, so back off just a tad. good. Okay, so trigger's back in, everything's in. Now we're going to take these fire select gears. First you want to take the one with the shaft on it, push it through. Take the one with the little D shape taken out of it and slide it on like so. Click into place, and then what I like to do is I like to set my fire select to full auto. Now this rectangle, I don't know if you can see that. This is in the shape of a rectangle. So you want that rectangle horizontal. Make sure it's horizontal, otherwise you will have issues with the fire select, and that little wing there catches that selector plate. Keep it in place, flip her over, make sure that one's horizontal too. Now I can take our receiver, feed your motor wires through, feed your battery wire through, pop it in, and that pin should just slide on through. Now we'll take our longer fire select. Just be aware there is a little spring in there. So because this is set to full auto, you're going to put this little steel ball in the safe position, so that when you attach your fire select, it is selecting full auto. Now screw that down, don't play with it yet. We'll take our other ambi fire select. Same thing again, guys. Put it in the safe mode. Carefully place it on. Your fire select should be working. Now we want to put our pin through. So just slide in like so. They do fall out quite easily if they do, it doesn't matter. The gearbox is held in place, ambi fire select, and by the handle. This mag release we are going to put, so you see a groove there, there's those there, this groove here needs to go on the top, so the groove is on the top side. That will just slide around for now. What I want to take is this steel ball. Just, this part is very tricky, guys. I don't know if you can see the little steel ball in that hole. There is a little circle there that when you push the mag release, it does slide up and down. So I want to set it to the low point. What we're going to do is slide our mag release through, like so. Then we're going to take this spring, the fat end, in first, and then put our mag release screw in, which you will need a flathead for. So make sure it is screwed in all the way. Nice and tight, and then when you push it, it should have spring like so. Bolt catch slides through there. like so. Make sure it is catching on the inside. Once you know it's catching, you can then take that fine tool, push the pin in, and then slide this other pin through. It should be in. Now we will do the other side. Now if your pins have come out, they're basically these little pins. One will slide all the way through, out, catch on the other side. You take your little spring, feed your little spring in, and then feed this in. Now when you push on it, it should have a little bit of spring to it. And then what we're going to do is, I like to slide one end in like that, then just push the other end in. Make sure you hear it click and snap in place, and that will make your bolt catch work. So now, simply screwing on the handle. We take our handle, feed our wires through, like so. Make sure that the handle isn't pinching the wires at all. And we're going to put the screws back through the holes in here. Okay, so once your handle is on, you want to push the negative wire down, because you want both wires running up the side. You don't want one wire either side. So just make sure it's clearing the hole for your motor. Then you want the negative side and positive, the negative to be on the right side. So we're going to feed that through like so. You should see the motor go all the way in, and then connect your wires. Okay, so like so, both wires going up the side. You want to make sure your base plate is sitting flush. Take a screw, feed that bad boy. I always like to go counterclockwise first, so make sure you're not threading it. Make sure it's in nice and tight. We take our other screw and feed it into the top. Once again, make sure it's in all the way. You want that base plate to be sitting flush. If it's not sitting flush, it will throw your motor alignment out of whack. So now, make sure your TP spacer is on. And now we slide the upper get a little bit of a jiggle in place. Once it all sort of lines up. This pin at the front, now it's back, it should just go through like so. So now the blaster is fully back together. And like so. Now let's give her a shoot. Okay, so this is a Turnigy 11 volt. Take this pin out of stock, connect it. Beep beep beep, that's the as to MOSFET. So semi, full auto, it's binary trigger, safe. Is ready for the field. So that's it for the Falkor defense, guys. If you want one, Azrael's Armory is the place to go. Very solid blaster, guys. With this video, it should show you how to fully disassemble, put it back together. It's a little bit tricky, but so worth it. Definitely a beast. Cheers, guys.